We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Lisa K. Donner, editor-in-chief of LibertyNation.com. Now, Lisa, I want to talk a little bit about a new right-wing media watch segment that's coming up in the paper of record, the New York Times, The Grey Lady. Apparently, if you ever wanted to know what the other side think, now's your opportunity. What's happening?
Well, it's interesting. For years and years and years, the New York Times and other such legacy media outlets just ignored the burgeoning alternative media. Some are conservative, some are just alternative. Everything from blogs to very well run sites. They just decided just ignore them. They don't exist. Well, as everyone knows, the newspaper business is really in a lot of financial trouble. And lest we forget, the newspaper business is a profit-making enterprise. It always has been. And I think what's happening is the alternative media and maybe some conservative sites are cutting into the Times. So their idea was, okay, let's not ignore them anymore. Let's review them. Let's police them. Let's, call them out or whatever. So they started a new desk, and it's the New York Times political desk that focuses on their so-called American right-wing media.
All right. Now, is this really a way of them looking into seeing what the other side thinks and then reporting it so they can do their job as journalism? Or is it really just a way to try and denigrate the right and get a few more clicks from their faithful audience?
Well, why don't we start with who they hired to head up this new news desk at the New York Times?
Always follow the top spot. Yeah, go for it.
So the top spot, the political editor of this new desk, goes to Ken Benzinger, who you might not have heard of, but his LinkedIn page says he's worked for the Los Angeles Times, the Wall Street Journal, for Variety as a Mexico correspondent. But his claim to fame is working on the BuzzFeed team that published the Steele dossier on January 10th, 2017, in an unverified report that contains errors, air quotes, their words, not our words.
So we can see where this is going. The guy who's running the whole show over there at the New York Times essentially created the biggest false flag news story of the century by publishing unverified report that contains errors, as you point out, and then starting this whole Russiagate collusion scandal. How does anybody hire somebody who has such a major faux pas on their record?
Well, here's the kicker, Mark. This is really interesting. In announcing Benzinger's appointment and announcing the new news desk, the editor of politics, I believe he's a senior editor at The Grey Lady or the New York Times, David Halfinger, said, quote, "These articles will focus on people who reject mainstream narratives and question the institutions that hold up our democracy." Hello? I thought that's what the fourth estate was supposed to be doing all along.
Yeah, it's almost as though they haven't realized that the journalist's job is to question or reject mainstream narratives and find out what's really behind something. But now they're focusing on the people who do that. So are they doing investigative journalism into investigative journalists? Is that what we're looking at?
I guess, they feel like it's important to investigate, to be skeptic of the other media outlets rather than being skeptics of the government.
Right. Again, that's an issue that's much broader. And let's just poke a little toe into those waters. Obviously, we have the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, and she recently said that people don't walk across the borders. Now, the right-wing media, as we should call it for just now, the right-wing media reported that Karine Jean-Pierre apparently doesn't believe that people walk across the borders. But in the left-wing media, nary a word was said. How do you explain that?
I mean, the facts are, all you have to do is turn on the TV every day it's like a drumbeat of people coming across the border. Every day there's a drumbeat of these people being delivered to New York and Washington, D.C. We know this is happening because our own eyes tell us that it's happening. So to ignore it, and I personally reject this business about right wing, right wing, right wing. I mean, it's okay to be a conservative site. We Liberty Nation markets itself as a conservative site. We don't consider ourselves right wing. We consider ourselves, people who question authority, no matter reason power. That's the business of a good, solid, free press, which we don't seem to have anymore, which is why so many of these alternative outlets have popped up.
Yeah, it's like there's a blooming of alternative outlets there. Now there are some on the political left, some on the political right, some on the political center, and they're all kind of growing, and they're growing their own organic audiences. And at the same time, what we're seeing is an exodus from what we would term, I guess, the mainstream media. Obviously, we've seen ratings drop precipitously for the Rachel Maddow slot that was. We've seen Brian Stelter kicked to the curb to much sadness, I believe.
And next up is Chucky Todd. It looks like
Yes.
he's on the ropes.
Yeah, it seems that the old vanguards of the mainstream who have spent years telling us that, theirs is the only opinion to trust. Theirs is the way forward. They are the, if I may, reliable sources. And now their audiences are leaving them. Many of them are being shown the door, perhaps because they're failing to keep the audience. And the new king of late night is not Jimmy Kimmel. It's
But Greg Gutfeld.
Greg Gutfeld. I mean, who saw that coming a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I can tell you as editor-in-chief of Liberty Nation, we make a concerted effort to ratchet down the vitriol, offer the facts, give some intelligent analysis. We openly state we're conservative. We urge the New York Times to openly state what it is and what its bent is. I think that would be fair to everybody reading it, instead of trying to be a wolf in sheep's clothing and act like, they need to police us.
The wolves are indeed at everybody's door. Lisa K. Donna, thank you ever so much.
Very welcome, Mark.
You're listening to Liberty Nation Radio, heard across the Radio America network from our flagship station in the nation's capital, WWRC in Washington, D.C. Remember, you can tune in for Liberty Nation from 2 to 3 p.m. Sunday on KBKW, 103.5 FM, 1450 AM, the talk of Grays Harbor. Later on, we're talking liberty with Liberty Nation's legal affairs editor, Scott D. Cosenza, to delve into the latest attacks on free speech in America. But up next, after this short break, we're joined by economics guru Andrew Moran, discussing not only where the money comes from to pay for Joe Biden's student loan largesse, but also what impact this boondoggle will have on the broader economy. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
We're doing it for real, really real. Liberty Nation.
And Jeff Charles, contributor for LibertyNation.com.
I think we're starting to make an impact. Liberty style, fighting for freedom.
The tracking poll sponsored by Liberty Nation for Thursday.
Mentioned by Dan Bongino, Rasmussen, Jordan Peterson, and
I can
others.
do it again if you want me to.
Cited in Mark Levin's American Marxism.
I think we're starting to make a really big impact. Get noticed. We're doing it. Rock on. I'm gone.